You matter. You are always first. You are an asset to our world, and we want to help you through whatever it is you're going through right now. I thank you and congratulate you for showing up today and allowing us to take care of you during this short self-care break. In a moment, I'm going to introduce our speaker, but before I do, let me introduce myself. I'm Denise O'Malley, and the founder of You Define Wellness, and the host of this gift that we offer to you. You Define Wellness is a community of healthy living professionals through whom we deliver education to discover new wellness paths and products for individuals and employers for affordable access. You can learn more from our website at that's Y-O-U, definewellness.com. For those who are joining us live, we invite you to connect with each other by putting your contact info in the chat box. And at the conclusion of this short event, you're welcome to stay for discussion and answer your questions. Today's theme is giving you tools to care for yourself. Jason Antalek is the owner of Akashaman in Denver, Colorado, and host of the Spiritual Handyman Talks on YouTube. Jason is a personal favorite of mine. His energy, enthusiasm, and passion for life is contagious. Spending any amount of time with Jason is like being wrapped in a virtual, if not physical, hug. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Jason Antalek.
Thank you so much for having me, Denise. That was a fantastic introduction. I also am a friend and supporter of You Define Wellness. And if Denise had a fan club, I would at least be on the board of directors, if not the actual president of the fan club. Just about anything that Denise does is worth participating in, being involved in, at least taking a look at to see how it fits in your world. So we're glad to have you folks here, and it's time to take a break that's all about you.
Take it away, Jason.
When Denise asked me to present, of course, the first thing is yes, and then what do you want me to say? She told me that it's about self-care, and really within the programming that we experience in our lifetimes, especially those of us that are givers or spend our business time doing for others in so many different ways, we get so accustomed to taking care of other people that taking care of ourselves takes an extreme backseat, if not in the trunk, or even so far down the list, it's not even in the vehicle. So what I propose is some opportunities to look at it a little bit differently. I'll start out with the first cliche that is something everybody can relate to, is the dropping of the mask when the change of cabin pressure happens. And you're instructed every flight, whether you've been on one or not, you've seen it, that you're supposed to put your mask on first. Because if you're not taking care of you, you can't take care of others in the same manner. And that's absolutely true in every environment, in the business world, if you're on stage as a speaker, if you are healing others, if you're running your own business, it just really doesn't matter where you're at. Taking care of yourself matters. And when you are a mom and you spend your whole day taking care of the kids, you still got to recharge. You still got to have those moments. And there are so many folks out there that are charged in such a way that they can help hundreds, thousands of people without ever really having a concern for themselves. The interesting factor there that I found to be a bottom line and a common denominator is that everybody that does for others has at some point overextended themselves and ends up on the couch, or they end up in bed for a few days, trying to recover, trying to get back to where they were. And that's not always easy to accomplish. It's not, sometimes it's a nap, it's an afternoon, sometimes it's days. And you've probably felt this in some form or other along the way, whether that's been a momentary need to just take a break, or even multiple days in bed trying to sleep it all off. These are powerful physical indications that you have overextended. Boundaries are self-care. Boundaries are actually very important. Knowing how much you can give and how much you can deliver and being realistic about that is not an intention to tell you don't help other people, don't take care of others. But knowing where that line is and when you move from giving so much that it takes away from you, or it moves into enabling others or supporting them in a way that does not serve you or them, that boundary is actually an important line. And we don't realize it till we cross it. So give yourself a break. And we're talking about breaks here. So that makes a lot of sense that if you've crossed the boundary and you realize, oh man, I'm in this rough spot, that's not a judgment. That's not a time to be hard on yourself. That's an opportunity to realize, okay, I crossed a boundary. So what was that for me? And it may take a number of times before you realize what that actually is. And it's important to be gentle with yourself, just like you are with other people when you work with them. Having that unconditional love, that concern and compassion that you do for others, for yourself, does not take away from your ability to help people. It is not selfish. That is a word that was created to design a way to keep people in check, to make them do for others. Using the gifts you have for yourself are meant for you. Think about your favorite birthday gift you ever got. It was probably something very useful, right? That's your favorite one because it works for you and you get to play with it or use it or apply it in whatever way you want. And it makes you happy when you use it. These gifts, these abilities to help others that you have are excellent for yourself as well. And it's important to understand that using them for yourself is really the first step. Having that compassion, giving yourself a break, taking some time for you. And lots of us look at those kind of situations and say, I don't have time. I got too much to do. Carve yourself out 2 minutes. If you start to do something, it will get easier. There will be more of it. Manifestation will begin to occur when you create that couple of minutes. That 2 will turn into 5 and then into 10 and then to 20 and then a half an hour. And before you know it, you might have a couple hours a week where you have just time to yourself with nothing to fill it with except what works for you. And that's a very valuable space to find yourself in because that's the recharge. That's the opportunity. Another aspect that really gets us into trouble here is working with our ego. The ego is a powerful force in the human experience. The ego's job is to keep you safe, and it's very good at it. The ego keeps us from running out into traffic because it's dangerous. Your ego is also why you brushed your teeth and your hair and put on clean clothes, most of us anyway. So there's a lot of good things that the ego does. And keeping us safe as the primary job also means that status quo is safety. So if you're trying to change and carve out more time for yourself, your ego is going to pop up and go, shouldn't you be doing something for someone else? Because that's how we feel safe. So here's a couple of little tricks for you. The first one is I want to share with you a process that can be enlightening and helpful in where you and your ego are at. What is your current status? So if you're someone who's currently driving or traveling or in an environment where you can't close your eyes, or you don't prefer to operate that way, it is okay not to do that. But what I would like you to do for a moment is through visualization or feeling or whatever works for you. You don't have to see things to gain from it, okay? So imagine, use your imagination, and feel and see yourself in the coolest possible vehicle you can picture yourself in or feel yourself in. It could be the raciest car. It might be the back of a limousine, maybe a spaceship or a real ship. whatever that vehicle is for you. Just imagine yourself in it, cruising along. You got your favorite tunes blaring. Everything is amazing. And you and your ego are in this vehicle together. You guys are traveling down the road. The question you ask yourself here is, who's driving? Who's got their hands on the wheel? And if it's you, great job. If it's your ego, great job for recognizing it. Pull your vehicle over and swap places because you're the driver. So when you get into situations where you feel like you're being driven by a force a little outside of what you would normally do, or if you feel like you have to, or if you don't do this, it doesn't fit, that's a great time for an ego check. Figure out who's driving. And if your ego is driving, put them in the passenger seat, the back seat, or once again, even the trunk. When you are in charge, which you always are, you're making a choice to be in that position. There is great benefit with your ego being involved. But when the ego is driving, change is much more difficult, and you're going to be driven by what keeps you safe. If what you're trying to do is better yourself or better your life or find an opportunity to take care of you, and that's outside of your norm, sometimes that ego might need a little check. It's super easy to set it aside for a moment and say, look, ego, I'm driving this vehicle. We're going where I say we're going, and we're going to get there the way I decide. I have the keys, I have the wheel, I'm in charge. The trick here is that you want to shift your ego from a point of opposition to motivation. You can do this easily by directing your ego to understand, and yourself to understand, that on the other side of whatever change, whatever thing you're doing to carve out time for yourself, is something that is happier and more fulfilling, a state for you where you're a lot more comfortable and you're actually safer. So for a moment, the ego steps aside, allows you to take the wheel, and then becomes the motivating factor. And now you've got it on board. Now you've got a navigator, which is way better as a driver than somebody who's telling you how to drive, right? Wouldn't you much rather have a navigator than a backseat driver? So there's a beneficial practice that you can zip into anytime you need to. If you feel like you're a little out of whack, you're out of alignment, you're trying to change something and you're hitting against it, this is something people that do for others always experience. They have that guilt, they have that question, they have the programming that says, I've got to put everybody before me. When your tank is drained and you have no energy left, you are of less service to others. By taking time for yourself, you're honoring you and everyone whose life you're going to touch, whether that's down the hall, in the business meeting, your kids, your family, or most distinctly, yourself. So carve out that moment, start small, enjoy it, do something that works for you. Keep that ego in a motivational space instead of a space of opposition. And remember that you're the one who's in charge. You get to choose. It's up to you. I hope that that little practice will help you out. And I hope that you'll figure out for yourself how to carve out a couple of minutes that will eventually turn into hours so that you've got some downtime to take care of you and take a break and do something that recharges your batteries.
Jason, thank you so much for those tips. I think it's always good for us to remember that, yes, we need to take time for ourselves. We need to carve it out. We need to put ourselves not just in the driver's seat, but have a navigator there. And thank you so much for those words of wisdom, and to take a deep breath and move forward. So for everyone joining us today, thank you too. Are you ready to dive into self-care? I'm inviting you to schedule an exploratory meeting with us to see if we can connect you with a provider in our community to meet your personal and professional needs. And join us every Wednesday on social media for either a live recording every other week, and on the off weeks, we will have a recorded presentation for you as well. So check it out. Our tools are there to help guide you through whatever it is that you're going through and support you, and let us take care of you for just a few minutes in your day, because you are always first.